Hello again everyone, welcome back to my channel, my little shack of a channel. I'm glad you could come back. Hello all the new subscribers, welcome. And hello to all the new people just checking out my channel. I'm glad you could join us. Merry Christmas, Happy Boxing Day. So without further ado, we'll get back onto the subject that we were discussing in the last videos, which is the Great Conjunction, obviously. You've got Jupiter and Saturn at the moment, and the media is calling it the Bethlehem star, the Christmas star, the Great Conjunction by astrologers. Now, what was portrayed by the mainstream was that it was a one-day event. Now, one day, I went on there this morning to watch it live. It's still there. It hasn't moved. It's still doing the same thing. It's got to be more than a one-day event, if you ask me. And we're still to find out exactly why. But speaking of this conjunction, the last time it happened was in 1226 AD. And the one that happened at Jesus' birth was... it was actually Jupiter and Venus, meaning something entirely different. So that has a different interpretation, if you ask me. Venus has significance as the bright morning star, which has been changed in some Bibles to mean Lucifer. I've been taught, it's been proven to me that they have changed Venus into meaning something about Lucifer. I mean, Lucifer to those people is, you know, the true light. And it was only Lucifer up to the Garden of Eden. And then it became Satan. So we don't use the term Lucifer anymore. So yeah, there's something of interest there, I believe. So the one that happened in 1226, Jupiter and Saturn, apparently it was the year when the Catholic Church changed the rules, so to speak, and made it so that you would worship the creation and not the creator, which was a big no-no in God's eyes. And I think God does pay attention to the Catholic Church, because they have so much influence over the minds and hearts of many. So he does keep an eye on that. But just like he used the Roman Empire to spread the word of the Lord through the crucifixion of Christ, he may be using it again. Although they have influence over the hearts and minds, once they start to really hear what the head of that institution has to say, they may literally come to Christ properly, because in that institution it's actually Mary has way more importance to them. And it's very pagan. Apparently it's not really Mary, it's some other pagan god and her child, and that's a whole nother thing to go into. But they're saying that the one happening now, the conjunction, it's the same conjunction as then. And from what I was hearing, it is actually the other bookend of what decision they made. And it's actually marking the fall. It's been 806 years since, and I believe it's marking the fall of Mystery Babylon, the beginning of the end for them, basically. I mean, I could be wrong, but this is coming from guys who are just deep into study 24/7. Another thing, okay, now I've been talking about something called the Mazeroth. This is the Hebrew name for the second heaven and all the stars and all the pictures and all the wandering stars. They call it the Mazeroth. Now, some interesting facts about the Mazeroth is that they predate the Babylonian zodiac. So the Babylonian zodiac, it probably began from there where it was corrupted. Some other interesting facts. The first century Christians, the first 100 years or so, or less, of Christians were astrologers. They were astrologers. They were watching the stars very closely. It all meant something. The first century Christians. So if it meant something to them, yeah. There's something interesting here about it was handed down to Adam, the Mazeroth, saying that mankind is oblivious and unaware. And the word Zodi or Sodi means the way or step. That's the start of the word zodiac. Also, the word Nazareth. Now, I've done a little bit of research on Nazareth as a place. Now, they've tried to say it is a place in Israel. So no, it's a place in Israel. But apparently, no, the historians have gone, no, there is no actual place that was called Nazareth. So, also, what I'm getting at, the word Nazareth, it comes from the word Mazeroth. Jesus of Mazeroth. And what did we say the Mazeroth was? It was the stars, wasn't it? So Jesus of the stars, it's like Jesus, man of the stars, Christ of the stars. That's where he came from. If you think of like Mary's conception, and it was an angel and told her, and the Spirit of the Lord came over her from above, and it's quite a thing when you learn something like that. Jesus of the stars. It's beautiful. Yeah, it was given to Adam and Enoch from the angel Azazel, who taught mankind the stars, taught them. Now, I'm not going to go too much into angels and names. There's another book separate from the Bible called the Book of Enoch. Now, I haven't been a huge studier of that book because it's nearly forbidden or something. It shouldn't be, but it is. And I think it was meant to be a separate book, but apparently if you read that, there's a lot of gaps filled in about the time of Enoch, who I said, by the way, when he was taken by the Lord, a lot of people went with him. It was kind of like the Exodus. They were following Enoch, I believe, to a top of a mountain, and he kept, every day they were following him, because it took days and days to get there. He would turn around and say, go back, you're going to die if you come with me, you're going to die if you come with me. And more kept dropping out of the group. But there was a the hardcore group. People were like, no, we believe, we're coming no matter what you say, we're coming with you. And when they went to the top of the mountain, the king and his men, they needed to send out a census. They wanted to find out who's left, who's gone, who's missing. And that's basically what this track and trace stuff's about. But I'll get to that. But when the king's men, they went up to find Enoch and all the other people that went with him, all they found were big stones of snow. And they all dug through the stones of snow, and they were all gone, and they couldn't explain it. Fascinating story. What gets me is that you can convince the Jews or even historians and archaeology, you can convince them that the Old Testament was very real and a lot of facts support it. I mean, they've gone to the Red Sea where Moses crossed, and they've found Egyptian chariot wheels and where it was most likely that Moses and all the people crossed. Check out those documentaries. There's professional divers. They go down and they find all kinds of artifacts encrusted in coral, and the Red Sea is basically just sand. And then they'll just come across this circular coral head on its own, exactly the same shape as a chariot wheel, etc. So what I'm getting at, yeah, they've proved a lot of the Old Testament to be correct. And as soon as it comes to the New Testament and Christ and all this, oh no, that's all, you can't prove none of that. That's what gets me, is when they just, at the moment they start the denial is the moment that Christ arrives. So yes, that's just the world we live in, isn't it? So I found that fascinating. Also, you need to check out the description in Ezekiel's wheel. Now, I was watching an excellent video, and a man who studies the Mazeroth, he worked out that Ezekiel's wheel and the description of it was exactly like looking up into the heavens, second heaven, and looking at the way the Mazeroth or the zodiac were rotating like the wheels within a wheel, and he describes the creatures on the four corners, and when he describes, one's got a face of a lion, one's got a face of an ox, one's a man, one's you get what I'm saying. You're describing the zodiac and also the way they rotate within each other. It was fascinating. Like he did it point by point by point. And I went, years ago, I have to say about 3 years ago, I was looking at that and I was saying, what is Ezekiel talking about? And I was making that connection, but I didn't go any further with it because it felt like I was the only one sort of doing it at the time. I thought, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm not. And I saw the connection between what Ezekiel was saying. I'm saying the face of a lion. I'm saying that's Leo, and then there's one with the face of an eagle. Because there's so many more constellations than the 12 that we're taught in the zodiac. There's just so many more. There's ones below them, there's ones above them. And it just goes on and on and on. And that's why I said in one of my videos, I need 3 lifetimes to keep up with all this, to understand it all. And don't you find that fascinating that the first century Christians were all astrologers? They were watching the stars. Okay, so where the eclipse, remember we were looking at the eclipse and it was on the 14th of December, and I was saying, oh, something's going to happen there. Something has to have happened there. Why God is pointing that out. Now we saw some major earthquakes there, about 6.0s. But do you know what I discovered had happened? They passed a bill in Argentina, right where the eclipse passed over. They passed a bill to legalize abortion. I want to talk about Tiberius. Now, Tiberius is a program that has been created, Operation Warp Speed. Now, some say it's about the VAX, but someone was pointing something out to me yesterday. It's really about track and tracing you. Now, what they would call that in the old days, the ancient days, if you like, the days of Christ, was a census. Because it had the same, it wanted the same outcome. It wanted to know, it wanted you all to go home, lock you down in your home, and so you could be tracked. And isn't it funny that they've called it Tiberius, and Tiberius did the same thing back in Jesus Christ's day? They're calling it Tiberius today. And back in Enoch, so I mentioned this, back in Enoch's day, what did they do? After he had escaped with many people, they sent out a census. I mean, sounds like escape, census, escape, census, escape, census this time around. I mean, types, shadows, patterns. Why not? I was talking about the conception of Christ, and could it be this time of year, and then he was born in September? There's somebody, some very good students taught me that no, it's actually Christ was conceived in September and born in June, and it was John who was born this time of year. I'm not going to say exact dates because I don't know. And John represents the bride. It was fascinating stuff, guys. And learning between, remember I was talking about the two different kind of raptures, one's an escape and one's a rapture, where you get caught up and then the escape is like a vanishing. Well, one step further, the bride is carried away, like a bride getting carried over the threshold, and the sleeping church is caught up. When you look at Pisces and you see the two fish, okay, you see one going straight up, accompanied by Aries, but that's something else, and then you got one fish going sideways. And I always find it funny when Christ is always talking about fishing analogies. And I don't know if he gave me this, but when I saw the fish going up, I thought of somebody fishing in two different methods. The one that was going straight up was like one caught on a fishing line, and it was going straight up to the surface. And then I saw the one going sideways, and usually the way those fish are caught are in a net or a snare. And what would the snare be? It would be the Great Tribulation. But still, they're caught, aren't they? I mean, I think for a fish, I think the fishing line and caught straight up, it'd be traumatic, but not as traumatic as being caught in a net and not being able to escape. It's interesting. It's Pisces. Just check it out. Dreams, experiences, visions. Have you been having any? I was trying to think, I've always got to have that section in my videos, and I was like, I can't remember any at the moment, I can't remember anything. But then I thought about this one that happened when I was about, I think about 5 or 6 years old, and it was sort of about, I think, 7:30 at night or something like that. But I didn't want to go to sleep. I was being a big baby, and I want to sleep in your bed, mummy, you know. So she put me in her bed, and then she went and sat out in the lounge room, and they started watching TV together. And she closed the door, and I'm on this big brass old bed. Very old fashioned one. It's got like brass knobs and everything on it. And I got comfortable, and I went to get, I'll never forget this. I went to start going to sleep, and then the whole bed started shaking. Like an earthquake. Like it started shaking. And I was like, I was freaking out. I'm totally freaking out. I ignored it. I went, oh. And then the bed started shaking violently. I'm talking so violently. I got up out of that bed so quickly. I ran into the lounge room, and I said to my parents, the bed is shaking, the bed is shaking. And they did not know what I was talking about. So they came in, they checked everything out, lights on, looking under the bed, there's nothing there. I thought my older brother had snuck in the room and was playing a trick on me. That's how real it was. Never found out what really happened, but it was terrifying. It wasn't a good experience. I was in the dark, I was on this big old bed, and the thing was shaking and shaking like somebody had hold of it and was shaking the hell out of it. So that was a little traumatic. Alright, so not so long ago, I don't even know what you'd call this. It was a vision, a thought. I mean, how do you explain it? Could have been a vision, could have been a thought. But I am constantly worried about my children. Right? You can do whatever you want to me. Do whatever you want. But when you come to hurt children, I've got a huge problem with that. Anyway, I was lying there thinking, okay, so I've come to the Lord. What about my children? What about my children? Are they automatically with you, or do I have to do something? And I had this thought, it's like a flash in my mind. I don't know if I never saw the face, but a man in a robe. He quickly picked up my little one into his arm, not in a bad way. He picked her up, scooped her up, held her under his arm, grabbed my other one by the hand, and they all walked off together into the light. And it was like he was saying to me, I love them more than you do. I care about their welfare more than you do. And they're in my hands. And I was like, you got me. And ever since then, I still get a bit terrified sometimes, but I think the Lord created them too. He's got them, He hasn't let me down yet. And I don't think he ever will. Every time I think I'm on the edge of failure, or, oh, he didn't keep his promise, he just proves me wrong. And everything's fine again. I'd just like to add a little music section. This one's a little bit funny. I was just doing some yard work, and I was thinking of that song, it's by a band that was called Meatloaf, and it's called Paradise by the Dashboard Light. I was thinking of the very last section of the song when he's saying, I'll never break my promise, I'll never forget my vows, but Lord really knows what I could do right now. So now I am praying for the end of time to hurry up and arrive, because if I've got to spend another minute with you, I don't think that I could barely survive. And I think, even though we are, we're lovers of the Lord, I think it's funny. It's just a bit of fun. And there's some people that you spend time with and they say, hurry up, Christ. Because if I've got to spend another minute with you, I don't think I can survive. It goes both ways. Some people probably think that about us, but yeah. So anyway, guys, I've let it go a little bit long there. So I will see you again shortly. I love making these videos and talking with you guys. And let's just keep the hope and the blessed hope. And let's just keep our eyes up. Keep watching. And I would never promise you guys a date, because I'm just like you guys. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm listening to the experts and just amazing connections going on. But I'm not coming to any final conclusions yet. You've got one guy down the street saying, "Oh, it's in a week," and you got one guy up the road, "Oh, it's spring on the northern hemisphere at the latest." You've got one guy, around the inauguration. You got one guy, 28th at the very latest of this month. I'd never do that. I'm just like you guys. I'm just picking up things as I go and discussing it with like-minded people. And yeah, that's it.